Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. My name is Roger Bisessa, and I would like to welcome you to our program, Our Islam, Peace, Not Hostility. This is a program of the Ahmadiyya Anjuman Nishati Islam Incorporated of Trinidad and Tobago, an organization that promotes a peaceful Islam, a tolerant Islam, and intelligent Islam. The mission of the Ahmadiyya Anjuman Nishati Islam Incorporated is to promote the pristine Islam as taught by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, upon whom be peace. On behalf of this organization, we are pleased to present to you a better Islam. Our presenter for today's program is Maulana Mustafa Kemal Hydal, religious head and missionary of the Ahmadiyya Anjuman Nishati Islam Incorporated.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا استجيبوا لله وللرسول إذا دعاكم لما يحييكم صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين. I bear witness that there is one God, Allah. I bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is the last, the final messenger of Allah, after whom no prophet, old or new, will come. And I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I have read to you verse 24 of chapter 8 of the Quran, which is translated as follows. O you who believe, respond to Allah and His Messenger when He calls you to that which gives you life. This verse of the Quran is taken from a chapter that is entitled Al-Anfal. And Anfal is one of the plurals of the word Nafil, which means voluntarism. To do something beyond the call of duty, to volunteer. We must remember, we must recognize the fact that Islam in the early days and even long afterwards was presented by volunteers. The Prophet Muhammad had very humble and simple people who associated with him in the propagation of Islam. The message of Islam was so important that it gave life to a dead nation. And this is what the Quran is pointing out to us here. That is, that by means of volunteering for the cause of Islam, we can change a world. We can transform a civilization and make the world a better place. If they had not been for volunteers, we would not have had Islam. Look at, for example, the Battle of Badr. Here were 313 persons some of whom had abandoned their homes in Makkah, their property, their families. At that early period, some of them hardly would have clothes or even clothing or food. Yet still, they were ready to do battle with the opponents of Islam. That was required at the time. But it was not even though these people did not have much weapons and perhaps just a couple of horses, a few swords or bow and arrows, they were able to defeat a mighty army. And the Quran points out to us that how often has a small group of people conquered and vanquished and overcome a larger group. In the society in which we live in today, we know that there is so much of social, moral, and, well, with the COVID-19 virus, there's a lot of physical deaths as well, but there's social death, moral death, and spiritual death. We note that there are a lot of crimes which are committed in the community and society. And the solution to resolving the problems of the world and changing human behavior and human outlook and human respect and regard for one another and for life is merely to arrest those who have committed crimes and put them in what are called prisons, but in fact are criminal warehouses. If you take a person who has committed a crime and you place them in a criminal warehouse, how long does it take putting a person in such a warehouse for them to be reformed? How long will it take for them to reform themselves? The judges, the magistrates, the juries may determine a period of time according to law, 5 years, 10 years, depending upon the crime. But is it that these people, in fact, go to prison for punishment or as punishment? Do they go there in order to suffer for their crimes? Or do they go there so that they will be punished for their crimes? And if they have to reform themselves, as normally it is considered, prisons are considered to be places of reformation, do they reform themselves by themselves or do they require assistance? Do they require help and counseling? Is in fact putting people in jails and prison a means of bringing about a reformation of society? And remember, these are only people who are caught and convicted. There are many people who are like those in prisons who are committing crimes outside that go undetected. And so it is important for us to realize the role of Islam and the teachings of Islam in bringing about a change in society. But in order to present Islam, there are certain things we have to consider. There are two issues that we need to address, to look at. The first is what Islam is intended to be presented to the world to bring a change in the world. Which Islam? The Sunni Islam, the Shia Islam, or the Islam of certain sects? And what is the method of promoting that Islam? Who is to promote that Islam? If we address the issue of what Islam has to be presented to change the world, most people will think that, look, it is necessary for people to believe in God, to worship God, to fast, to perform pilgrimage, to give zakat, the 5 pillars of Islam. But let us ask ourselves this important question. Even if today or tomorrow the entire world were to believe in one God, were to worship that God, were to fast and follow all the rituals and principles of Islam, will the world be now a better place? Will the world be happy and contented? Will we remain in a stagnant state of people merely worshipping and keeping away from all of the normal things of life that we consider to be irreligious? Will that make the world a better place? We must remember, if we look in our history and the history of all religions, that there was a time in the world in which we found such a situation. Remember Adam and his spouse in the Garden of Eden. Here were 2 people in paradise with all the amenities that they needed. They had little challenges, if any at all. They were extremely happy. In fact, all religions teach us that is the Garden of Eden. It is paradise. And yet still, the two of them, Adam and his spouse, fell from paradise. They had to face the challenge of the deceiver, the devil, as is mentioned in some scriptures. They moved away from that state of bliss that they enjoyed, so that the mere performance of religion and service to God is no guarantee that the world, in fact, will be a happier or better place. What the Quran wants us to understand is that it is important not merely to create an environment in which people are worshiping and praying, that external environment of people going to mosque and people performing all the outward aspects of religion. More important, more necessary is in fact the transformation of each and every individual's character and personality. And that is the purpose of religion, to change our personality and character. To change the world, we have to change the character of each and every individual. This was the mission of the Prophet Muhammad. He did not merely come and tell the people that you must not worship idols and you must pray to Allah 5 times a day. That came long afterwards. But he transformed people in their behavior first and foremost, in their attitude and outlook, in their regard and respect for one another. And so that is really what propagation Islam is all about. It is to carry a message that will transform people's behavior, regardless of who or what they are. Whatever race, whatever religion, whatever ethnic background, whatever social status they have in life, it is necessary and important for them to uplift their character, to make themselves a better human being. And so we address the second issue, which is called, who is it that can, in fact, bring about this propagation of Islam in order to bring about a change in character? Will it be a leader from among the Shias who can bring about this message? Will it be a leader from among the Sunnis? Will it be the king of Saudi Arabia or the head of some Muslim country? There's so many Muslims in the world today who benefit from Islam. They enjoy the benefits of the religion of Islam, and they have worldly benefits, plus they follow the teachings of Islam in a very meticulous way. Yet still, this is not creating an impact in bringing about a world that is better for every human being. So something is lacking. This is why Almighty Allah took it upon himself, in an age in which the world has so much of science, so much of technology, so much of power, so much of wealth, so much of knowledge. In every religion, there are scholars, there are philosophers in every nation, there are great educationalists. There is so much of development of science and understanding of the human being, human behavior, human mind. Yet still, putting all of these together has not brought about an improvement in human behavior. So many wars within the last 100 years or so have been fought. So many people have been killed. The carelessness of people has brought about even physical death in not being able to follow rules and regulations with regards to health and with regards to moral and spiritual development. So that Allah has decided that I should send someone who will direct people to the correct way of changing and improving and transforming their character. Within the last 100 years, one such person stood up and said, I have been sent by God to bring a change in humanity. I'm not a prophet. I'm a volunteer in the cause of Islam. His name was Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Lahori. And he started this organization of volunteers that we call the Ahmadiyya Anjuman Ishaati Islam. An organization that is worldwide, dedicated through volunteers to the promotion of Islam. We have to live up to that responsibility of being volunteers in the cause of Islam, to invite people to that which will give them life, physical, moral, and spiritual life. And so, how is it we can bring about a change in personality and character? What is it we are propagating? What is the Islam that we are propagating? Is it the mere rituals that everyone performs and doesn't seem to have an effect, even among Muslims themselves? There are Muslims who pray 5 times a day and still they are crooks and criminals and commit murders and other types of crimes, from leaders right down to the common human being. The founder of the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Lahori, has pointed out to us, has directed us to the fact that the success of Islam lies in understanding and teaching and promoting the messages of the Quran. And we must not make the mistake of going outside of the Quran in order to obtain teachings that will bring about a transformation of human personality and character. The Quran is such a wonderful book that you don't even need to read the entire Quran all at once in order to understand its message. Sometimes just even one single verse can give us enough information as to how we can use ourselves and our skills to bring about a change in our community and society. And there is one such verse. The verse I'm speaking about is taken from chapter 33, verse 35, which lists 10 qualities to develop character building. Briefly, this verse tells us about the men and the women who submit, believe, and obey. The men and women who are truthful, patient, humble, charitable. The fasting men and women. And the men and women who guard their spaces. And the men and women who remember Allah much. Allah has prepared for them forgiveness and a mighty reward. What does this verse tell us? It tells us, it speaks first of all of the Muslim. Wal Muslimin wal Muslimat. The Muslim men and the Muslim women. And each of these Arabic words have important significances. Muslim means to submit, but it means to be free from inner and outer calamities. It means to live in a state of safety and submission. It means to resign yourself to the circumstances, especially your attitude towards external influences. There's a well-known saying that when there is a storm, if you can't calm the storm, you can calm yourself. So that a Muslim means that one who is free from the effects of what is happening outside because they take the necessary precautions, whether it is disease, whether it is hunger, whether it is economic issues or problems. But being safe from that which is outside is not enough. There are certain issues within the individual. People go through anxieties, depression, they suffer mood swings. So the Quran also points out to us that we must be mu'min. The word mu'min means to believe, but it also means to have an equanimity of mind, to have composure, to have your mind at ease, to have your mind free from fear. In other words, the attitude you develop towards your internal self. So Muslim is one who adopts an attitude of management and control of the challenges outside, and a moment, as the Quran points out to us, that faith must enter into your heart. A mu'min is one who develops a management of the attitudes that are within the individual. Our tendencies to love, our tendencies to get angry, our tendencies to work hard, our tendencies to withdraw from work, our tendencies to want to eat, our tendencies to want to abstain from eating. All of these need to be managed and controlled. Then the Quran speaks about qanit. That is translated as obedience. But it means obedience with decorum, with softness. It means having respect. And what is respect? Respect is the kind feelings we have for others. The Quran also speaks about sadiq, which is being truthful. But it really means to have a consonance, an agreement between what is in your heart and mind and what comes out of your mouth. A consonance of heart and speech. The Quran further goes on to tell us that we must be sabir. Each individual must be patient, resilient, to have mettle, to have the strength of patience in Islam does not mean to sit idle. It is a proactive, dynamic approach to issues that confront us, to the challenges of life. So patience does not mean withdrawal. It means to move forward even in the face of challenges. Then the Quran points out to us and tells us that we must be khashia. And khashia is interpreted as humble, also patient, but it really means to make oneself small. There's a popular saying in Islam as well as in Christianity, and reading the Quran, that a rich person, which is summarized as a rich person cannot enter into paradise unless the camel could pass through the eye of a needle. And many people find it difficult to understand what is a camel pass? Can a camel pass through the eye of a needle? It certainly can, if the camel is small enough. And so it is, the Quran is pointing out to us, as well as the New Testament, which has a similar parable, that we need to humble ourselves. We need to make ourselves small, as it were. Then the Quran points out to us that we must be mutasaddiqat. Again, that is translated as charitable. But it means to prove to be true, to find something to be true, to discover truth, or to extract the truth. It also means to fulfill promises of charity and to respond to truth. But the most important interpretation of mutasaddiqat is to empathize, to be able to understand the feelings of others, and not only the feelings of our own selves. And we do that through the next word that is told to us in this verse, that we must be saim, abstemious, fasting, restraint. And saim, or the fasting person, is one who knows when to stop in eating, when to stop in food, in movement, in speech, when not to say what should not be said. Because very often an unkind word can indeed turn away an individual from good behavior, and it brings out our own bad behavior. So the Quran wants us to adopt an attitude of speech, and this is why the Prophet Muhammad has said that the breath of the fasting person is sweeter than the odor of paradise. And people think that you should not brush your teeth because of that. That is not so. It means that when a person is fasting, the words that come out of his or her mouth are words of sweetness, words of kindness, words of gentleness, words of tolerance and understanding and caring. The last two words in this verse of the Quran teaches us that an individual must also be hafiz. And hafiz here does not mean hafiz of Quran. In fact, it speaks about حافظات لفروجهم. And furuj is interpreted as chastity, but literally is used in the Quran to mean spaces, gaps. Quran speaks about gaps in heaven, speaks about the furuj of the heaven. So hafiz means those who guard the faculty of retaining what is understood. Hafiz, and that's why a Hafiz of Quran is called a Hafiz, because he or she can retain what they understand. But the Quran also points out, and there's a popular saying, let there be spaces in your relationship, that we have to guard our spaces. Of course, we see in today's world, that is so important in maintaining our physical health, where we can keep our spaces, we can keep apart from each other, even though we are together in fighting a pandemic, yet still it is important for us to guard those spaces. But the Quran also indicates to us that we must be zakir. And zakir means remembrance, to be able to produce what is retained. So hafiz is those who retain knowledge and information in their mind. They make space in their mind for knowledge. But zakir means those who expound that knowledge, who produce what is retained, to recollect, to mention, to relate, to use that knowledge to raise people in eminence, to remind people. When we look at this verse of the Quran, we will see it gives us so much of guidelines as to implement in order to develop and improve human personality and character within our own selves, as well as in our community and society. And then the Quran concludes in this verse by telling us the result of all these efforts. And what is that? It says, maghfirah, forgiveness. And forgiveness in Islam doesn't mean that merely your sins are wiped out. It means, in addition, to be inoculated from further sin. It is as if you have a vaccine so that you would not be able to commit any wrongdoing later on. And that was the achievement of the Prophet Muhammad. He vaccinated. He found a vaccine that would cure the world from moral and spiritual diseases. And that was the message of the Quran, that once implemented and injected into the human mind, changed human behavior and granted it protection, physical protection, moral and social protection, spiritual protection, and most important, it granted a reward. There were benefits, and we have seen in history how that change transformed a nation that was so barbarous and converted them from hostility into harmony, make them live as better human beings. That too can be done today. It is the responsibility of us as members of the Ahmadiyya Anjuman Islam to volunteer our efforts. We don't need a paid army. We don't need mercenaries, because we do not believe in the promotion of religion or any philosophy for that matter by use of force and violence in today's world. We need to transform our personality and character. To change the world, we have to change character. That is the message of Islam. That is the mission of the Ahmadiyya Anjuman Islam as given to us by our founder, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Lahori. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quran al-Azim wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikr al-hakim. Innahu ta'ala jawadun kareem, malikun barurufur rahim. Alhamdulillah nahmadu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma ansur man nasara dina Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam waj'alna minhum. اللهم اغزل من خزل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر.